I'm Nigerian. It's brought back many memories. I want to ask you, Yinka Davis, what part did that person play, and does that bear any relation to Nike Davis?
No, I know Nike Davis, the artist, and it's interesting because when I was, young, I found out that I was useless. I couldn't draw, and I couldn't paint, so I went about running after the traditional artists, and that's when I met Nike Davis, and he was married. He was married then to 27/7, who taught her what she does today. And I went after all of them, the Oshogbo-based artists, Murano Yelami, and all of them. But Yinka Davis is a musician. She's talented. She was in that duet, singing about money with a local, although international stature in Fuji music. And Yinka Davis, being contemporary jazz singer, teamed up with a local musician to play Fuji. And I came across this track, and it was not sold, it was not commercialized. But I held on to it for 3 years and put it in the film, to document that again, that such collaboration was possible between talented musicians.
Yes?
Hi, can I just say congratulations for the theme. You brought up so many issues in the theme, and also it's great to see Funke Akindele, one of my favorite actors in Nigeria. I think the issues about the ritual is still very troublesome for me, because I didn't think that this particular theme addressed the issue itself. But I think taking the character of Kashi through the trauma, I think that it probably be necessary or important to find a closure so that people in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria can understand those rituals and also be able to walk through them. How do you intend to do this? I don't know if there's going to be a part 2 where, because MAAMI is great. It's
Thank
sort
you.
of a mother, really. But
No,
the rituals still worry me.
yes, the issue, that ritual is common, and is as a result of unexplained wealth. It's possible in Nigeria, anything can happen. You are poor last night, and today, somehow before the end of the day, you are a millionaire. People don't know how you came about the money. They don't know what you did to suddenly turn you around. And so people spin stories about how you are likely to have come about such a wealth, and they think about the spiritual angle. So I've had this kind of stories before, where supposedly in a ritual, you get a boy, put him through something and charm the boy and put something on his head. And every morning you go there and, he's produced money, and depending on what you believe, I think for me it's stupid, because I never believed it myself, but the story is popular. And for me, what I say, being a cynic, is unlikely, because I don't know the spirit. How do you command the spirit to produce pound sterling or produce American dollars, or in what how does the spirit know what denomination, $100 or 50 pounds, something, so perhaps I don't think it existed, but like Kashi's father, he probably did it, but you saw in the end it was vulnerable, because the thing about studying wealth is everybody is insecure and vulnerable, because people who have the money, they're concerned, they don't want to lose the money, and people who haven't the money want to get at the money, so it would, within that, all sorts of stories will crop up, but it's really popular. That's why I put in the film.
I just wondered, in Ireland, post-independence, film was very much seen as an important role in defining the nation. And I wondered, is it the same in Nigeria, and the funding and backing and support for the film industry? Is there much government support?
So I'm sorry.
Were you saying, first of all, that an island, the film...
Just thinking about your point about, say, you know, the kind of wanting to celebrate independence. In Ireland, in that celebration of independence, there was much money put into the film industry. And I wondered, is there much support in the film industry that you have encountered?
So is there a lot of support for film in Nigeria to celebrate the independence of the state?
No, no. It would be wonderful if you had that kind of support. The Nigerian independence is important to me because I experienced it. You know, I was a student in primary school, and they gave us a bowl of rice. You know, we ate a meal, and they put the Nigerian flag, you know, in our hands, and we waved it. You know, and I've lived through it, 50 years of it, and sometimes I'm disappointed and all that. You know, so in documenting 50 years of Nigeria, I knew it would come and go. And two things, I was able to make this film, and then I was able to produce a stage play, which was a satire, you know, on politics and corruption in Nigeria. You know, so until recently, Nigeria government was not really interested in the industry, and the industry in Nollywood grew out of private enterprise. And for me, if you took funding, money from the government, you couldn't turn around, you know, and criticize that government. You know, have no choice but to do propaganda films for them.
I love the scene on the bridge where the beggars were begging, and Mummy and Akashi come past them as though they're not going to give any money, and I think there is a thought of Mummy, I must turn round and give some money. And the funny thing for me was that she only gave to 3 of the beggars and not to the other one. What was your thinking behind that scene?
Oh, you missed something. You know, before she gave the boy the money, she rubbed him all over with the money. You know, so perhaps it's a ritual to say, you know, she said something and prayed, something perhaps like, you will never become one of these unfortunate people. Mm-hmm. You know, so if you give them money, that means you won't become like them.
Yes.
You know, that she did as sort of an insurance, you know, for the boy, but they didn't have money to go around. You know, that's about how much they wanted to spend. That's about how much he gave the boy, and suddenly, you know, this guy got desperate, and then suddenly she realized, oh, perhaps it was a mistake, you know, getting close to these people, the boy might be harmed. You know, like a mother, she flew in to rescue the boy, and so on. But the ritual was important because before you give beggars money, you probably will pray.
Yes. And
say, you know, sort of your intention for, you know, your generosity.
And he said of that one, didn't he, that God would look after you?
Sorry?
And they said of that one, God will look after you. Of the one who didn't give the money.
Yes, it sort of prayed and said, you know, you have to give me something, you know, and so on.
I'll have a couple more questions, actually. I was going to talk more about this. MAAMI is considered part of what is called New Nollywood now, isn't it? Which is maybe a more crossover international Nollywood. I don't know if you want to talk more a bit about that.
Well, some of the preconception about Nollywood, it depends on how is it defined. But the truth, you know, about when you come into Nollywood, it suggests that small, narrow films that are made in a foreign language very cheaply and released to DVD, CD, that's what's called Nollywood, but it's not true. Nollywood is actually about diversity, and within it there's a lot of expressions. And, you know, at first, the Nollywood tag was controversial. You know, it's very distressing that someone, Martin Steinglass, a journalist, came to Nigeria, interview people around, and went to write for the New York Times and used the word Nollywood and the stock. For some of us that were pre-Nollywood, it's, we didn't want to have anything to do with any wood. Our cinema was a cinema, if it's indigenous cinema, if there is Japanese indigenous cinema as indigenous to Japan, then what's wrong with Yoruba cinema? Why is it got to be wood? But it's stock. Just like I was telling Michael, like the name Nigeria, for instance. Nigerians didn't name themselves Nigerians. It was Lord Lugard who used the term for the first time, and stock. So Nollywood has now become a brand. And it's when you come closer to Nollywood, you realize that, in fact, the films that are made in indigenous languages in Nigeria are more than the films that are made in foreign language. But the most visible aspect of Nollywood is the films that are made in foreign. Unless, if you had the conception of what Nollywood would be, you would argue and say, MAAMI is not Nollywood. So if they give you the tag of the new Nollywood, it's good to use the brand, because I say, for instance, Tunde Kelani, Mainframe Productions, that's my production company. And I say alternative, Nollywood, or the other Nollywood, or the new Nollywood, depending on how you want to define yourself within the whole concept of Nollywood.
Great. And then finally, I guess, do you want to talk about your next project and what you're working on now?
Well, I'm working on several things, depending on how I get the fund. The next 3 projects I want to do are adaptations, and essentially they're about women again, And for me, this is important, But the story I'd like to do next looks at is a health theme about sickle cell anemia, which is a black man's disease, and to throw more light on it, but in a love, affair, in a love story, which is going to be very entertaining. Because of the theme, it's going to be in English language, but immediately after that, I have to pacify the Yoruba audience, who both in the homeland and the diaspora don't want me working in English at all. So I have to quickly follow with the Yoruba story and then go on to the next project. So basically, these are things that I'm planning to do.
Great. I'm sorry we can't talk about it more, everyone, but thank you very much for coming. It's a real honor to have you.
Thank you. This is a point of contact, and I believe this is some sort of introduction to Nollywood, and I hope that next year, perhaps, this room will be filled. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. And please keep an eye on our schedule, everyone. We've got loads more films coming this week with more filmmakers attending. Thanks very much.